We have Jenny from House of Impact, and I'm going to be asking her some questions about her podcast. Are you ready?
Sure, let's go.
All right, awesome. Okay, so the first question. Um, let's do origin story first. So, what was it that compelled you to start a podcast and put your voice out into the world?
I always say to people, it's not a grandiose aha moment that I had. I did it out of necessity. I was running a marketing agency, and then I always knew that that's not what I wanted to do. But I was fresh in London. I moved to London when I was 23, and I was like, now it's not the time to start a podcast. And everyone was saying to me, but Jenny, just grab a mic and like start recording and put it out there. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how I want to do it. So then I kept going. And then 5 years later, this was almost 2 years ago, I went to Bali and I was in a very, very bad place. I was not happy in the relationship I was in. My business kind of went bankrupt. I was so lost. I didn't even know who I was anymore. And one day I was just like having breakfast and I was like, what a miserable way to live. Like, this cannot be my life. After everything that I've done, like, this cannot be my life. And then I was actually looking for therapy because I was like, well, I mean, I need to get out of the hole that I'm in. And financially, I was not doing well either. And I got to the point that I'm like, I need to do something that really, really gets me out of my bed every morning. And then I was like, instead of going to therapy, why didn't I start interviewing people that have gotten themselves out of a bad place and now they are living the life that they always envisioned for themselves? So I did that. I borrowed money from my ex-partner back then. I hired a studio and I started recording. I had no brand, no name, no audience, no skills, no nothing. And I just started recording. And I recorded the first 12 episodes and then I launched it. And I launched it out of passion and that was my calling, that was my purpose. And I was like, if the show can help one person every month, like get one person better and get themselves from where they are to where they want to be, that's my that's that's my life's passion and happiness. So we started there, and a year and a half later, we've recorded with big guests and people that I was just sitting in my bedroom when I was 16 years old in Spain, and I would just watch their YouTube vlogs and on how they were living the life of their dreams, how they moved to countries, and I was like, I love for that to be me, and it's so wild to be recording with them and sitting with them and being like, you were on my screen on on YouTube when I was 16 years old, and now like you're sitting across the room of me, and it was just like, I was like, how did we get here? Like, how did we get here from something that I really very desperately needed? Honestly, it saves my life, it saved my mental health, to now becoming a show that's helping a lot of people. It's like, I don't know what happened in between, probably because I really worked hard for it, but that's how it started.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Um, so, what is your favorite part of the creative process of like putting your podcast together, finding the guests and stuff? What is your favorite part of that?
I think my favorite part of putting everything together and bringing the vision to life, I think it's it's a mental battle that you go through. It's a mindset that you have to get through. It's because I always say this to people when they ask me like, how did you get these big names into your podcast so early on? What did you do? Give me the scripts, give me everything. And I always tell them like, I can give you the scripts or whatever messages that I sent or I used, but ultimately the what's going to really determine if you get these people or not, and if your brand and podcast grows or not, is who you are in the process. Because we have two people, and I've seen this, and the exact same people can do the exact same, like two people, right? People A and people B. People A does what I'm doing and gets a guest and gets a show growing. People B, exact same, but doesn't get themselves to that point. Why is that? Because the way you approach how you show up and how you communicate the vision and the mission of what you're building is what's going to determine if people are jumping on board or not. So for me, my favorite part of doing this is a process that it involves in a mindset and identity level that it's like the most powerful thing. I think that is something that people don't talk about industry or when wanting to, create your bring your vision to life and create the life that you want. I think that's something that people don't talk about. And sure, you can get all the technical stuff, you can get all the strategy, but ultimately it's not the strategy, it's who is driving that strategy forward that matters.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So as you're going through this process, when we're speaking about identity and manifestation of that identity, developing that identity, what is something that you learned about yourself as you were developing this podcast?
That's such a great question, Preston. I think something that I'm learning about myself is that it's two things that are intertwined. The first thing is like no vision, no dream, no goal is too big for you. It's not the goal that is big. Is that the person that you are right now and the person that you have to become to achieve that goal, that's the gap, right? So I think one of the most important things for me and that has gotten me so far to where I am now today is the becoming process and that in between and messy middle process, which if we talk about manifestation or identity, it's called a liminal space. So the liminal space is basically you're not who you were, but you're not yet the person you need to be to get you there. So it's basically you are doing the things that are going to get you there, but you're not fully embodied in that. And I feel like that's what I've been learning. I feel like that is where a lot of people get it wrong, or a lot of people are not willing, or they don't achieve what they want to achieve. And why so little people only achieve what they want is because they get lost in this liminal space of between who you are and who you need to become in order to get you to the next level. And I always say, like, there's no guest big enough. There's no goal big enough big enough for me. But who do I need to become to get me to that place? I started asking myself this question because I would always ask myself, how? So I would just see like a very big gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And something to be said as well with the process of building, the process of creating is the space between where you are and where you want to be is big. But it's only big because you feel like you are too little, like your identity is too little for your goal. It's not that the goal is big, it's that you are not yet the person that will achieve that goal. And if you can go through a process and become that person and think like that person, behave like that person, you will get there. And another thing that I did as well, which changed everything for me, is I shift that how am I going to do this to who do I need to become and what do I need to do and how do I need to behave to get myself there. And since I started shifting this, I started being more spotting opportunities for growth everywhere. Okay, who do I know that knows this person? How do I behave on this area? How do I operate on this area? And that for me has been the biggest shift. And that's basically how you can shorten that gap. And it's not gonna come overnight. When I say to people like, oh yeah, you can achieve your dream life, like a year ago, I remember I was like in my London apartment and I said, this exact day on this exact, like next year, I will be in the States. I will be in Austin recording podcasts for the show. I'll be growing a US audience, and I'll be moving to the States next year. And a year later, I am in Austin recording the show and literally preparing to move to the States next year. And so obviously when I was in the kitchen, when I was at my lunch apartment, I could not see it like fully how everything panned out. But I was like, yeah, I'm claiming it. It's gonna happen. And then I started shortening the gap between who I was and who I needed to become by action, by thinking by changing the way I was thinking. So then my behavior would just come after that. And the most important thing, which I would encourage everyone to do, is apart from being delusional and being crazy in your dreams and goals, which you have to be, is knowing what's your upper limit when it comes to your identity. Because you will always get a lot of resistance. And I thought that was a bad thing at the beginning. It's like, oh, the more resistance I feel, the more this means it's not for me. No, the more resistance you feel, the more something is for you. But because you have not adjusted your identity, it's like your thermostat, right? You've not adjusted the temperature of how much you can take and how much you can accomplish. You need to start graduating that and acting as if you have it. I always say this, and people say, oh, manifestation, what with things. It's neuroscience. Because your brain doesn't know what's true from what's not. So the more you can lie to your brain and be like, no, we are here right now. This is what's happening. This is who we are. This is what we're building. This is where we're going. And visualizing that as if someone that already does it, everything's going to happen. And it's going to happen way quicker because there is no such thing as I cannot achieve this. No, you can. But who do you need to become? What do you need to give up? What do you need to sacrifice? What do you need to let go of to get you to the point where you will achieve it?
Yeah, I love that reframe from how to who. It makes things more attainable, but also it gives you a map of how to attain that, rather than just like trying to put it together. Because the person, you may not be the right person to fix that problem yet. You may need to level up to do that. I just love that. I think that's a great reframe. So this is along those same lines. But what is a belief that you had, that you live by today, that you didn't have 2 years ago?
I'm gonna answer to this question with what the limiting belief was,
Yeah,
and how
that's
I
great.
switched it. I think that's gonna be a bit easier for the audience too. So I always, like, a very ingrained limiting belief that I had in myself is success exists for others and it's possible for others. It's just not possible for me. And I feel like that came from childhood, from seeing everyone around me like get good grades and me doing the exact same thing that they were doing and me not getting it, or everyone getting into the colleges of their dreams and everyone getting what they wanted, just not me. And I was just always like the almost person that I'm almost there, but not quite. And then that led me to believe like, oh, maybe like success is not for me, but I know it's possible for other people. And I think when I started really working on that, is like, well, maybe I'm not as successful as I want to be, and maybe I'm not doing what I really want to be doing because I feel like it's not possible for me. And then I started untangling all of that, and that came from a wound on worth and on how I was seeing myself and the level of things that I could achieve and deserve to achieve. So 2 years ago, it's so good that you asked this, because like before I started the podcast, I was like, oh, I see a lot of people starting podcasts and crushing it, but that's just not, I don't think it's gonna be for me. Like I can start it, but and then I started shifting that to, no, success is possible for me because I believe it is. So if I believe, so if I go from success is possible for us, but not for me, and then I switch that to success is possible for me because I believe it is, and because I've seen it, and because I've borrowed that belief from other people, then success is going to be for me too. On my own timeline, possibly not, but I believe it is, and so it is so. So when I started with that belief, everything changed. And from that belief, like I moved countries. From that belief, I built the podcast. From that belief, I start building my network. And then it's so funny because like you look backwards and you cannot understand all the things that you went through and everything that happened. But when you look forward, you see that those things need to happen and those beliefs need to be there because they have brought you to a point that they served you, and now you can shift them and basically be like your pain becomes your purpose, and what you used to be ashamed of, like parts of you, now they are the power that is driving everything in your life. So that was like the biggest shift that I made.
Oh, that's great. This we may have answered this, but we may not have. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the question. This happens for me a lot, and I think this is the case for a lot of entrepreneurs. But there's a direct correlation between inner work and then your professional work. So I'm wondering for you, if you have an example of a thing that you fixed for yourself personally in your inner work that ended up showing up in your professional life.
Yeah, everything that we see is an expression and manifestation of our internal world. You wouldn't be here if you wouldn't have done certain work on yourself. I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't have done certain work on myself. The belief, like the internal state, always equals external reality. So if your internal state is really bad, your external reality will mirror that. The world that we live in, the life that we live in, the career we have, the business we have, it's all a mirror. It's all a mirror. It is facts because that's what you're seeing, that's what you're living day by day, but it is a mirror of what you believe and of what you hold or believe to be true about yourself. And that can always change. I always say this to people, like, you can't really change your life overnight. It's like, oh, but change doesn't happen fast, which is another belief that I had, that change didn't happen fast. It's like, no, you can change your internal state like today, now. It's a decision. But you will need to give your external reality and your career, your whatever it is that you want to build, you will have to give it some time because it has to catch up to the work that you've done. So if you want to build, or if you like this podcast, right? Like podcasting, how many podcasts that make it past episode 3? How many podcasts that make it past episode 20? Like 90% of podcasts fail because people just like give up. But it's what are some of the parts or pieces within yourself that you need to work on and optimize to basically reflect your professional life. And I always say this to people when people ask me, like, how did you rebuild your life so fast? How did you do this? How did you do that? Give me the how. And I always tell them, like, internal work, because you will always be limited by by the work that you do in yourself. It's not the environment, the economy, the people are limiting you. It's what you are believing about yourself that's limiting you. So if people want to grow their business, if people want to change their life and change jobs and take the leap and build a podcast, launch a book, or whatever it is that they want to do, they do it backwards. They go into strategy first, they go into the hustle and grind later, and then they're like, oh, hold on, like I just realized that I might need to work on this thing or like this belief that I'm holding true to be true about myself, which is not, to get this. And it's just backwards. It's I always say this, and I know like this is going to be hard for some people to listen to, and it was hard when I when I got told that too, but it truly is really hard to achieve success if you are not conditioning your internal world and your internal system, your internal software. It really is really difficult, but you just make it even harder on yourself. Because if you do not realize about what are the things that are holding I'm holding myself back from increasing my business, from growing my business, from putting myself out there, what are those parts? Then you would just go into strategy, you would just like launch whatever or like grow whatever, and then you also have like an upper limit. And the upper limit is not strategy, it's not technical stuff, which a lot of people think that it is, and so I did myself, right? It's not that. It's what are some things that you need to heal and work on to get through that upper limit.
Yeah, that's a great answer to that. Yeah, I totally see that. And also I see that replicated a lot with the technical stuff. Like a lot of people will double down on the controllable variables or the easy things and then not do the hard things. And they don't get the result that they want because they're just not going about it the right way, in the right order. Okay, great. So I want to talk about fear of failure and the fear of success. So let's compare and contrast, and when you see that in people, and yeah, like how you think about those two concepts, because they're kind of the same thing, but they're also not. And when we're talking about like identity and manifestation, I feel like those are different blocks, and that's kind of what I'm asking you to elaborate on your thoughts on.
Yeah. Um, Obviously, like when it comes to manifestation, I've been a bit reluctant to talk about it because I feel like it sounds very woo woo, and obviously, like I have Christian values, I'm Christian, but when
We're in Austin. This is like the woo woo capital of the U.S.
when people, it's funny. I was okay. So we are gonna go point by point here. So, if I digress, just ask me a question again.
You're good.
Yesterday, I actually I was talking with a friend. He's building an amazing business. He has been doing really good in his life, and he said something that was happening that I said, "Oh, imagine this happens," and he said, "Oh, by the way, this happened," and then I wrote in the chat. No, he said like all of your manifestations are coming to fruition. And then I wrote in the chat, I'm a master manifestator, right? And people, and especially like being Christian, like I am very careful on what I say about manifestation because people have just twisted, right? So we are in the capital of like the woo-woos and spirituality and all that stuff. But when we think about what manifestation is, it's not about, oh, let me think that can is going to move. I'm going to manifest it and it's going to move. It's not that. It's not. It is like the world we live in. It's the imagination of God. God imagined everything. God said there's going to be light and there, let it be light. Let it like be dark. So we live in a manifested world, right? That he created for us. He created human design is made in a way that the most powerful thing that he could give us is our brain, is our mind. That's the most powerful organ that we have in our entire body. What we do with our mind, then it can also be destructive, or it can be what's going to get us to the next level. So when people see manifestation, what that is just knowing what you want, imagine it in your subconscious and in your belief, and then act and take action towards that as if it is done, and so it will be done. Like just like in earth as it is in heaven. It's literally in the Bible. That is for me what manifestation is, and how to use it's basically how to use your brain, how to use your subconscious to make manifest or bring into reality the life that you want, and co-creating it with God. Because
Okay.
that's what I believe.
Yeah. On that topic specifically, what about let's compare that manifestation to the idea of what is God's will or what's in God's hands. How do you feel about that in relation? Like, how do you feel about manifestation in relation to like what is God's will?
Yeah, good question. Uh, I was having lunch with a friend. She's been in ministry for so many years, and I asked her. I was like, "How do I know I'm in God's will and not doing what I want to do?"
Yep.
And she's like, "Jenny, like God, God will support." Let me see if I can remember what she said. She said, "Jenny, God has a plan for everyone. Not all the believers are called to doing big things, but God has a plan, right? I would just say like with like this two path. So if you say I want to be a nurse or I want to be a podcaster or I want to be a lawyer and you really want that, God will approve. God will not be like, oh, you're not in my will right now. Because when we say God's will, it's not just what we do with our career, it's how we act, how we behave with other people, and how we see the world. Are we seeing the world with the exact same lenses that He sees the world, that Jesus saw the human being in the world, or are we just our lenses and our angle distorted? Then we're not in His will. And I was always really scared of like not being in God's will. I have to do that. But I think like what's important to say is everyone has a calling and God's plan for our lives are good. But He can give you like a silver platter and you might choose to not go ahead with it. You have free will. This is what she said. There's a plan, but God gives you free will. So if you won't go through the path that He has planned out for you and you will go through the other or like choose another path, He will still bless it. And I feel like that is very important for people, especially for people that are Christians or, believe in God. I feel like that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. I like the way you put that. Okay. What part of you feels older than your age? And what part of you still feels young and unfinished?
Hmm. Good question. Um, I feel like we will always feel unfinished. I don't think we'll ever finish. And I always say like I'm gonna grow old, but I'm not gonna grow up. Like in my case, obviously like I was adopted. I was given up for adoption when I was 5 months old, and then I was adopted when I was 2, and then my parents separated when I was around 4 or 5, and then I feel like I was more like the caretaker and regulator between my parents than I was a kid. So I don't feel like I've ever have gotten the opportunity to be an actual kid,
Right.
an actual child. So I've always been, which even the doctors also told my parents, like I've always been older for my age in the way that I think, the way that I act, the decisions that I make. But I feel that is something that I feel like I'm old on the life that I live, the decisions that I make, and how I portray myself probably. But something that I have, which I thought at first was not a good thing, but it has gotten me to where I am today and have built what I've built, is I am a child. Like my spirit is a child. I am a daydreamer. That's a part of me that will never be finished. I'm a daydreamer. I dream. I was being told this when I was school. Like I was school sitting there for like 6 hours and I was just dreaming about, oh my gosh, when I moved to the States and I was 16 years old. It's like when I moved to the States and when I speak English so fluently that it's gonna be so good. And so all these things, it's like, oh, it's so funny because I'm living the daydream.
Right.
And if that part if I wouldn't have had that part of me, I would probably not be sitting here with you today. I would be I would not be having this childlike faith or delusion, or people are like, Jenny, be realistic. Like a lot of people say to me like you need to walk with your feet on the floor. I'm like, oh no, believe me, I trust me, like I have my feet on the floor and I have my head on the clouds, because at the same time you're grounded, but you know what's possible. I feel like that's something that has served me a lot, but I don't feel like we will ever be finished. I feel like that's the most beautiful thing. We will never finish.
Yeah, yeah. The beauty of constant evolution, always trying to be a little bit better and a little bit different than you were before. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's I didn't expect that answer to be so great. That was awesome. Um, okay, so we've kind of talked about a little bit of this, or you've already mentioned a lot of this. We're gonna go ahead and ask the question anyway. Um, Most people that start the kind of podcast that you start, like an impact-driven manifest, like kind of mindset podcast, have experienced some sort of rock bottom, some part of their life that is broken apart, and it's kind of forced them to become the person that they are today. And when was the moment that you realized that you couldn't be living like that anymore, and that you had to become who you are right now?
I didn't know that I had to become who I am right now. I didn't.
Okay.
And I would argue that a lot of people that are now achieving great things, also they didn't know. But that's enough. To know that you cannot be living the life that you're living, it's enough to then make you take the steps to become the person that you were supposed to be, or that you were meant to be. Let me explain it this way. If we have a tunnel, right, and we're walking on, like, it's pitch dark, and we don't even have a flashlight, nothing, but we see a very, very, very tiny light, and we're like, okay, what do we do? Okay, let's keep walking towards that light, even though we don't know where we're stepping. We don't know if any monster is going to come out of a closet, and we don't know the obstacles because it's pitch black, but we still see that light. That's what people need. And that's how you start creating a life that you want. You'd only need very, very tiny light, like the have faith as a master seed. You only need something very small. You don't need to know who you are meant to become, because you won't know until you're becoming, and until you are in that process. Because I always thought, I'm going to give you an example. I always thought, I'm going to become a journalist. Why? Because I loved, and this is the irony of it, I loved interviewing people. When I was a kid, I think I was 13. My grandpa took me to see football in Barcelona for the first time, and I loved it. And on the way there, I got interviewed in the news. So they put me on the microphone. Yeah, it was just crazy. You see, like, everything starts making sense as you start thinking about it. So they gave me a microphone and they asked me questions. And then I responded to those questions. And then 6 years later, I was on the national TV radio for my hometown, because one of my philosophy dissertations was basically selected to be on a national TV radio. So I went there, I did the interview, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to be a journalist. I want to be interviewing people. Like, that's who I want to become. That's what I'm going to do. And then I discovered my love for traveling. It's like, oh, but if I do journalism, maybe I'm not going to be able to travel well. I want to do journalism, but I need to have, like, an option B. So I'm just going to do tourism instead and travel that way. I end up going into college doing, like, tourism and, like, hospitality management and, like, all that stuff. And I didn't like it. And then I started with a marketing agency, and then 6 years later, I started with the podcast. And it's the thing that I was like, that was my very, very tiny light of, like, the things that I need to do. But even when you know what you want to do by knowing what you don't like to do, you will still need to walk even when it's pitch dark, and you will still need to walk even when you're at very rock bottom. but you only need that very tiny of hope to be like, okay, let me just keep walking. And on the process of walking, that's how you are becoming. Because people are like, how do I become? So people ask me this a lot, and I ask this to a lot of guests as well. I've had guests that were in the NFL. I had this one in particular, like Evan Britton. He was in the NFL, and I said to him, "Did you always know that you were going to be? Did you always know that you were going to be an NFL player?" He's like, "Yeah, I knew." But I take steps towards that, even when I didn't know if it was gonna work. But I believed that it was, and that's like I only needed a very tiny seed of a mustard seed of faith to keep me walking. And then I asked him, and I said, "How did you feel? Like you've become this person now. How did you feel when you got into the NFL?" And he said, I was like, "Yeah, I already knew. Done." Exact same thing for me. Like I was like, oh, when we chart the podcast on the top rankings in the UK, I'll feel like this, and you embody the way you feel. And then the day comes when you actually are on the chart and you're like so disappointed.
Yep.
Because you don't feel, it's like, oh yeah, this is good. But it's like, why am I so disappointed? Why don't I like feel like, oh my gosh, this is the best day of my life? Because you are not supposed to, because the person you had to become and endure and feel like every single day is that person. So you already felt that. It's not the outcome, it's not the goal. It's the whole process that you had to get through to become that person.
Right. Yeah, the gift really isn't the prize at the end. It's the process of doing it and the becoming and all of that. And another thing that came up when you were on that last question, have you ever heard the idea that God is always preparing you for the next thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seemed like these things all seem unrelated at the time. Like,
Yeah.
how does this travel thing relate to this interview? But then when you look back, you're just getting prepared for one thing, and then the next thing, and then another thing, and then as these things kind of continue to happen, you realize that you've already been here before, and you're already ready to take the next step, because you've already prepared for it years earlier in this totally unrelated and not purposeful way. And yeah, I feel like when you're going in the right way and going the right direction, that ends up just happening for you.
Yeah. And even when, like, I feel like God is always preparing you like that. I don't feel like that's something that ever is going to stop. But you also choose if the thing that he's preparing you for and the thing that you really want, if you take it or not. Because it's that gap that we talked about, right? It's like people daydream all the time, right? Like we are all made the same way in God's eyes, right? We all have a brain. We all have hopefully we all have a brain. We all have a brain. We will be dead. We all have a brain. We all have like a subconscious. We all have that. But then why is it that some people never achieve what they want, and you see the potential, and you're just like, that was me. It's like, oh, the potential, like this girl has so much potential, oh my gosh. And then I was like I was not achieving anything, and then I look back, it's like I was being prepared, but it gets to a point that preparation won't cut it anymore. You just need to like go for it, and you won't be ready, and you won't be fully prepared. But God is not asking you to be fully prepared. God, the universe, how you believe in, it's just asking you to really be like, okay, like we've gotten to this point, now you gotta jump. And it's like a plane, right? You can prepare the plane. I was just thinking about this on my way here. You can prepare the plane all that you want. You do all the technical checks, you do all of it. But then it comes to a point that it's like, okay, now it's go time, right? And when I was at this I wasn't in rock bottom anymore, but I had a moment with the show that I really wanted. I don't think I fully wanted to quit, but I had this moment where I'm like, I this doesn't make any sense. I feel like I'm treading water all the time. Like I honestly I don't know what I'm doing. And then this friend, which is Christian, but like this friend sat me down he just grabbed me and like, Jenny, sit down. I was like, oh no, I don't have time for this talk right now. Have you seen how low I feel? Like, again, victim, right? I was being such a victim. And he literally, like, gently, he's like, sat me down. And he's like, Jenny, you're about to go to Austin. This was like the first, before I even came here, the first time I got here in July. You're about to go to Austin, right? You're about to be on the plane, right? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay. What needs to happen in like to get the airplane off the ground? What would you do if you have to get the airplane off the ground? Like, you will do all the checks, you would prepare everything, you would prepare the people, you would prepare the crew, you would do all the preparations. I'm like, yes. I'm like, okay, now and then what would you do after? I'm like, I don't know, just like just go, right? Just I don't know, what would I do? And he's like, well, you would you would literally go all gas, no brakes, and hope that the runway it's enough. And you would put all gas, no brakes. And that's what you need to do with your life. And he was like, go all gas, no brakes for anything, no brakes for like any setback, don't stop for any setback, don't stop when you're having production issues, don't stop when editors like mess it up, don't stop. He was like, just go all gas, no brakes for a year. Give yourself 1 year. And if after this 1 year, you've not gotten to, you haven't even taken the plane off, then we're going to sit down again and you're allowed to moan all you want and be like how shitty this is and like do all you want, but give yourself a year. Okay. This conversation was July. It's not even been a year. In this probably 6 months, the podcast is like on the top UK charts for self-improvement, which is one of the toughest ones to get to. We've recorded in 2 continents. We've done probably like now it's about 1 million a month of views on Sureform. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be, right? The podcast is not monetized yet, and it's still like me bootstrapping the whole thing. But it's like go all gas, no brakes, even if you struggle, because the only way to get through the bumps is like just to keep going. There's just no other way, no other shortcut, like no nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about not having a plan B and just going all in on the thing that you want to do.
I think plan B is just, I used to have a plan B. I used to. But you know, obviously like people that see this might have kids and a wife and all that stuff, and understandable. But when you have plan B, is such a disrespect to your vision, is such a disrespect to yourself, because then what means to have a plan B when people get married? Oh, hold on, there's divorce, plan B just in case.
Yeah.
When people are like, I don't know, like they're not fully in it, right?
Right.
And that's such a disrespect to their vision, to their calling, and that creates a lot of doubt internally on an identity level and mindset level, because it's like, well, if this thing don't work, that's fine because I have a plan B, and that's how I used to live my life. And that, like, no, absolutely not. There's no plan B. There's only plan A, and when there's only plan A, your mind, your limbic system, your subconscious rearranges, and this is like the craziest thing I've noticed in my life and in everyone that's been on the show. Your mind rearranges the whole thing, like the behaviors, the manipulative subconscious, whatever, and then your life to make the plan A, the plan B, the plan C, and the plan D. Like it just is. There's no room for like, oh, let's see. Well, if this doesn't work, let's see what else is. No, it's like it's this, and it's going to be this.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah. There's something to be said about commitment and commitment to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I totally agree. Ooh, I like this one. Okay, what is an emotional pattern from earlier in your life that still tries to creep up on you that you have to control and push back?
An emotional pattern. The fear I'm going to lose it all. The fear everything's going to go. The fear that Like I'm gonna wake up and I'm not gonna be sleeping in the in the like in my apartment anymore. The fear that it's just like that everything's gonna like all the work that I've done, just gonna lose it all.
How do you handle
Yeah.
that? How do you push back on it?
Um, it's something that I'm still working on.
Yeah.
It's something I'm still working on, but I think it has really helped me. This might not be something that people will be like, "Oh my gosh," but it has helped me to be at in an absolute rock bottom. Like we're talking about -7, minus almost 10,000 in debt, sleeping on friends' couches. Like my two of my closest friends had to buy me groceries. We're talking about that type of rock bottom, like not knowing how you're gonna like eat food the next day. It has taken me that. It has taken me losing, which now in hindsight was not losing, was like, what got me here, but like losing a relationship I thought I was going to marry. I thought it was like, oh my life is planned out. My life is like, okay, like it took me that, like losing it all and then rebuilding everything, like the whole thing back up. It took me that to start conquering this fear of like I'm gonna lose everything. Because what's the worst that can happen? Like I just go bankrupt again? Oh well. Like I'll rebuild in like probably like 2 months time, even faster. Because I've built assets in my life and I've built a lot of resilience in my mind that I've done it once and I've done it twice. I've rebuilt. I have this pattern of I don't think it's a pattern. I feel like my life is designed this way of like I'm starting over. I feel like I'm starting over all the time, right? But it's like I've done it already, and I didn't die. Like I'm still here.
Right.
So that is something that keeps going. But I feel like a lot of people have that feeling because the higher you climb, the more there's to lose.
Right. Yeah. 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 That makes a lot of sense. But I mean, it seems like you're handling this very well. So you are definitely doing the work, and it's showing. Um. Okay. So what part of your life at the present moment feels like unexplored territory and like a frontier that you're just now stepping into?
The podcast, 100%.
Huh.
Because at the beginning, I was obviously we didn't have any downloads or any plays for the first 6 months, and I recorded with some friends and with people that I was comfortable with. Again, like that thermostat of identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I started getting bigger guests, when I started getting internationally recognized people, when I started like seeing the people were actually downloading and listening, I was like, oh, okay, it's happening now. It's true. So I feel like getting over that hump, and then it's like you always have the next level. You always have the next
Mm-hmm.
boss, right? So now it's like, okay, like there is this, like the vision is like kind of like expanding like this. Like I'm in rooms with like top 1% podcasters. How did I get myself there? I don't know. Like I'm just like a like a Spanish girl that came from a small town and now she's here, right? So it's always, it's like how can we bring the vision in my mind to life? What would we need? Can we get it? How fast can we get it? And if we can get it, like who can I trust? Who can I not trust? And what character traits, what behavioral traits, what psychological traits I need to develop to get me to the next level. Again, it's nothing technical. There's always like technical strategy, of course, but when I'm pitching to a sponsor, when I'm pitching to, I don't know, whoever it is, they're not gonna be like, oh, like no. They will be like, oh, I see the vision, see where you're going, so like I want to join you. I feel like this is where we like the point that I'm at right now is it's very uncertain because I'm not fully in Europe. I'm not fully in the States yet. I'm in the again the liminal in between messy space of like
Mm-hmm.
moving to the States and like trying to get a visa and trying to grow the podcast to top US charts, and my life has never been I feel like this is the most uncertainty that I've ever had in my life, in all areas. Like with friends, obviously, because like I'm not fully here, I'm not fully there. With my career, but like I just felt so much peace. It's like if the house was on fire, and I was just like sitting there in the sofa eating like Kellogg's like cereal, like that's how it feels.
Where do you think that peace comes from?
From living the life that I want to live, and from doing what I truly want to do, and from being who I really want to be without fear of people judging, without fear of not being good enough. Because if you're not good enough in something, like what's enough? Who says enough? Um it's the peace, and I truly hope that whoever's listening to this, I truly hope they get to experience this. It's the peace of knowing that you are doing what you always wanted to do, and that you are on the right path. No matter how hard it's gonna get, how bumpy it's gonna get, there's always peace. And for me, what really helps is I always every morning is like, God, show me, guide me on how to do this. And if this is not what you want me to do, or if this is not what you want me to be, just don't give me peace. Like just and there's peace every day. And in like all the time, in career, in friendships, in every single thing. And so and I think that I feel like that's where a lot of people should get to, because when you create your career, when you create your life that you want from this place without having to prove your worth to anything or to anyone, without attaching, being invested, yes, but without attaching yourself to anything, you just you just create from such an authentic and aligned place that then if the doors that you wanted to really open are starting to open now, it's like, yeah, because I'm at peace and because I can discern and I have enough agency to know what door to open, what lever to pull, what's for me, what's not for me.
Yeah. So along the same lines, as you are accomplishing things that you didn't even think you could have accomplished, do you celebrate those wins, or are you always looking to the next thing to do?
It's hard. I struggle to celebrate because like I'm just not where I want to be yet. Like I'm not there. But then again, I have friends challenging me. And it's like, but where is there?
Right. Similar to what you said earlier, what is enough?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where is there, Jenny? It's like, wow, like I already be on the charts. I want this, I want that, I want that. It's like, yeah, but like if you don't celebrate the small wins and what needs to happen for you to get there, you will never get fully there, because you will be here, but then won't be there. And like you will always be here. You will never be like there. And I started celebrating the small wins. I feel like it's also really important for people to, and high achievers, to do this, because you need to stop and smell the roses in order to get you to where you want to be, because that's how we are grateful for where we are. How can we get to where we want to be if we're not being grateful for where we are, and we do not see how far we've come?
Yeah.
We need to do that. We need to really stop, and we need to really be like, I start doing this exercise. I grab a piece of paper and I do 2 columns, and I do a column of like 6 months ago, and then I do another column of like now. So I do then, and then I do now. And you can date that from 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever you feel. And on the first column of the then column, you start writing out all the things where you were before, right? Like, if this is the thing that I've also realized, like if you force yourself to remember the befores, your brain will start going there. So you write everything down. And then you write, let's say 6 months, as in now. And you do write everything down of like where you are now. And then you compare it. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of wild to like,
Right.
like, And that's how you know, and that's how you also train your brain to spot more opportunities for growth, because you're like, oh, turns out that yes, I'm growing. Even if I'm not there, well, I am the there now. So I am here, but here was once there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you think that that is something that high achievers do? Just keep constantly moving the goalpost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will never
Yeah.
get there.
Right.
Never. Because we continually move the goalpost. If you have 100,000 downloads, it's like, okay, how can we get 200? How
Right.
can we get 1,000,000? If you close, I don't know, a 100K sponsorship, how can we close a 200K? If you have a guest that's big, how can we get bigger guests? How can we, like, you constantly move the goalpost, which is good. It's good. But do not remember that you're here now was you're there before.
Right. Yeah. You got to keep track of your progress. Yeah. Okay. So when you're thinking about your future version of yourself, who you want to be, and the person you're building towards, what is a belief that she lives by that you're still trying to grow into?
Like when it comes to mindset.
Yeah, mindset. Yeah, definitely mindset, especially around what we were talking about earlier. But it doesn't have to be mindset. It's definitely like a where are you at and where are you trying to be kind of question. And what is that like intangible thing that you want to have in the future that you feel like you maybe don't have right now or that you want to improve on?
Let's see. I never got an ask this question.
I know I have no softballs for you today. These are all like hard questions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's all good. What's a belief I'm trying to?
Yeah, or what do you think it would take for you to level up as a person in general?
Yeah.
Not just necessarily the podcast, even though that is something that is definitely going to be an extension of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is like the thing that you're trying to do better at? Like for me, for example, like for me, I'm trying to be more cognizant of how I am serving other people, because I'm not really thinking about that. I'm just kind of thinking about the things that need to be done and like, like what needs to happen to get us to this goal or like how I can help someone, but I'm not really thinking about the role I play in other people's lives.
Yeah.
And so I think for me to level up personally, I need to be more aware of that, and then I'll be able to serve people better. So yes, stuff like that, like little stuff.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be at a big scale. It would be the impact that needs to happen in my own life to achieve a greater impact on other people's lives.
Okay. Yeah.
Obviously, like, my show is called House of Impact for a reason, right? But I never realized, like, the more impact we have in our own lives, the grander the impact we'll have, the bigger the impact we'll have on other people's lives. If your impact on your own life is small, the impact you will get in other people's lives will be small, because you cannot grow in a tank that's small, right?
Right.
If you put a fish in like a small tank, even if it wants to grow, it won't be able to grow. If you grab the same fish and put it in a very big tank, it's gonna take a lot of like different stuff for it to grow, but it will grow. It has room. So we can only impact people to a level of impact that we have created in our own lives. If I don't put myself in uncomfortable positions, if I don't walk the walk, if I don't show people what is possible, the impact in their lives will be smaller. An example. I started creating more content on social media, and then I received a DM from a lady that was an OG since we launched the podcast, and she said like, I really enjoy your show. Like I started listening to you when you started doing solo episodes. I listened to a couple of them about becoming that person and about changing your life for the better, and about having faith even though you're in deep shit. That's what she called it. And she said when I started listening to your podcast, I was 50. That was like almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I was going through IVF. I was 50, and people said like I could not get pregnant, and it was like it was bad. And then because of that, well, she was already pregnant when she saw the podcast, but because of that, like a year and a half later, and because of everything that you've been open up about, and all the purpose you put in your work, like I am now walking my daughter to school because I kept that faith when I didn't have it in me because of 2 of the episodes that you put out. And then I realized in that moment, I was like, whoa, like this is for real, for real. Like this is like we're talking about like real people and real human lives. Because when you put something out and you see 10 likes, or you see 200 downloads, or you see 1,000 views, you see the number, but you don't see, like if we put 1,000 people here in this room, they don't fit.
Right. Right.
And then I say, oh, I only have 1,000 views. Well, that's 1,000 people that are like listening to you and like wanting to like change for the better, and like you are impacting them. So that's why I say like the more impact that you can create in your life, the more you challenge yourself to create that impact in your life, the more uncertainty you create on your life and in your growth, the more impact you will get on other people's lives. And then they will go on into impacting other people's lives. And then it's like a chain. It's like change that happens.
Do you think that that's the larger purpose for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It when I launched the podcast, it was like, oh, this is about my passion, about me, and if it can help one person a month, that would be great. But now it's becoming something way bigger, and it's like the decisions I make in my life and the way that I decide or the way I don't decide to grow or to not grow has a direct impact on all these people's lives. So if I basically say to them, okay, give me the hand, give me your hand, I'm gonna help you cross the river. Well, I'm already here. I've already crossed it, right? That's how I see the podcast. That's how I see people that want to change their lives. Like I've already crossed it. So I need to cross the river first. I need to get through it first myself. And then I can extend my hand and help people cross onto the other side. But a lot of people, they see people that are on the other side, but they don't see like, oh, how can I get onto the other side? Like, or is it even possible for me to get to the other side? Like, how do we do that? Because people see these amazing big podcasters, like big transformational speakers are on stage. They've done all these things. They have millions in their bank account, like all these things. And they just like look at them like this, like, oh, how? But it's like, well, but it's like they were also once on the other side of the river wanting to cross the river. Right? But if we don't create a life where we are uncomfortable, where we have to grow, where our back is against the wall, where we're going all in on what we want to do, then if we do all of this, then it's going to be easier for other people to have an impact on their lives.
All right. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Well, Geni, that is all the questions I have for you today. And I really appreciate you being on the podcast. I think it was a great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you so much. Yeah.